The constant theme of this conference has been talking about the debt, talking about how conservatives can rein in this spending so my generation can prosper. But as I look at Washington, I don't think that the problem is that there's too much partisanship. There's too much bipartisanship. Both parties are agreeing to equally mortgage my future away. They're agreeing that it's okay to spend $1 trillion we don't have. But there is a caucus of people that have stood up against Republicans and Democrats so that my generation does not have to inherit trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. One of those people is Congressman Stephen King from Iowa. Someone who has stood up for constitutionally limited government, fiscal responsibility, and has the courage to call a Republican a rhino and a Democrat a liberal. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Stephen King from Iowa.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, CPAC. You know, I walk in this building a couple of days ago and people come up and say, thanks for giving me some energy and inspiration. What are you talking about? I'm the one that draws the energy and the inspiration from all of you. And when I go out of here, I'm going to go out of here like a rocket to engage those people that are undermining the pillars of American exceptionalism. Some more. But I had some thoughts that I wanted to start out with, and that is that about 3 weeks ago, I'm on an exchange program where we negotiate with the European Union, and I go over there every other year. They come here in between. I was sitting in a conference, and they had an expert on the Middle East there, and he began to talk to us about how the Muslim Brotherhood in the Arab Spring that has taken place, and summer and fall and maybe another spring, that Arab Spring and the Muslim Brotherhood, according to him, is a hollow ideology, a hollow ideology. And they're willing to die for what they believe in. And I listened to that and I thought, I've gone to church here in Western Europe, and they are museums if Americans don't go over there. There are museums every day but Sunday, at least. And where is the hollow ideology? I listened to one of those elected representatives say to us that he had inadvertently outed himself as a Christian, and therefore everyone suspected his policy agenda as being rooted in his Christian beliefs, and he couldn't be effective as a legislator. Not in America. We're the exact opposite. If people don't understand that we have a core faith of beliefs, we don't trust their agenda. And that's the difference. But I'm watching it come back here to the United States, and I look at the agenda that's been coming out of Congress recently, and it seems to me to be a hollow agenda. There's a lot more to this country than buy, sell, trade, make, gain. Yes, economics are important, and yes, free enterprise capitalism is a pillar of American exceptionalism, but it isn't the central point, it isn't the sole point, and it isn't the only picture, the only piece of the picture of the shining city on the hill. There are some people within our movement that want to rebrand the Republican Party. Now, they may succeed in doing that, but they're never going to rebrand us conservatives. The things that we believed in for generations, and in fact centuries. The Founding Fathers understood this. They saw that vision from God and said, these rights come from God, these liberties come from God, and they set about, with his hand, shaping the United States of America in that vision and in that image. And we know what the pillars of American exceptionalism are. Many of them are in the Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech, religion, assembly, the press, the right to keep and bear arms. I can't think of any of these at this point that aren't under assault by a bunch of leftists that want to deconstruct America. And that does offend me. And so I think it's our job to step up and defend our values and defend the full spectrum of constitutional conservatism. I'll stand there with all of the people that want to rebrand the Republican Party to work on the economic side of this agenda, but I invite all of them to come over with all of us to work together on the full spectrum of constitutional conservatism, including life and marriage and the rule of law. And on the life question, it's really pretty simple. I went through the toughest election of my life last fall. I had tracking cameras around me from St. Patrick's Day until November 6th. 1 to 3 cameras always focused on me, trying to get a second or a minute that they could run against me in an ad. They didn't get a single second that they could run against me. Not 1 second, by the way. But they're in the business of trying to undermine and weaken us, and I didn't back up on any principle. We debated the issue of life, and I said my opponent, my leftist opponent, cannot answer 2 questions on life. Is human life sacred in all of its forms? Yes, it is. And at what moment does life begin? The instant of conception. And the people on the other side of this question dare not answer either one of those questions. They know they lose the debate. I stood on life and I stood on marriage. And the thing that a bunch of people that have been backing away from these challenges don't seem to realize is I'm still standing. Now, why is that? I didn't run a campaign on jobs in the economy, jobs in the economy, jobs in the economy, and beat that drum until I beat people into sleep. That's part of it, all right. But all of the rest of this has to be added together or we can never reconstruct this country. We will not get the pillars of American exceptionalism put back together unless we have the full spectrum. If we can restore our families and strengthen our faith and protect innocent unborn human life instead of assaulting it with $500 million appropriated to Planned Parenthood in a single year. That's got to go. Obamacare has got to go. We can't let up on Obamacare and believe that somehow we're going to capitulate to that side because it erodes our vigor, it erodes our vitality, and it is an unconstitutional takings of God-given American liberty, and it's got to go. Now, Ronald Reagan only let me down a couple of times in 8 years. One of those was 1986. And I still have the dent in my filing cabinet that I kicked it after I heard in the news that he had signed the Amnesty Act of 1986. But it was on the promise that there would be law enforcement and we would restore the rule of law and 1 million people would be legalized, but then from there on forward the law would be enforced. Well, I made sure I kept my records right, waiting for the INS to show up at my office, but I never saw them. Neither did thousands of businesses, but the enforcement in Reagan era was greater than the enforcement in any succeeding administration, and now the rule of law is so eroded with regard to immigration. I sat in a hearing just a couple of days ago and heard La Raza say, well, we want to provide this, call it this comprehensive immigration reform, and after we restore the rule of law. La Raza is telling us after they restore the rule of law by waiving it, they've eroded the rule of law, and Republicans seem to forget that of the 11 or 12 million that they say are here, and I think it's 20, 2 out of every 3 are Democrats, and Democrats know that. This is a political agenda on the part of the Democrats, and the president came to us and said, I'm trying to help you Republicans. I'm not buying it. I remember 1986. I know the rule of law is a more important pillar of American exceptionalism than can afford to be sacrificed. I know that Ronald Reagan said to us, the shining city on the hill, and he never told us that that was our destiny or our destination. He said, that's who we are. Well, there is a destiny and a destination for us. It's even greater than the shining city on the hill. If we're going to build it, it's at a higher altitude, and it's on all of the pillars of American exceptionalism, not the politically expedient ones, all of them. And that's... So that's what I challenge all of you. Join me in restoring the pillars of American exceptionalism. And of those who think that the kind and gentle language of self-deportation was what cost the presidency, I would suggest to the leftists that have deconstructed the rule of law, America's pillars of American exceptionalism, cities like Detroit and Chicago, either go live in those enclaves that you constructed, or you go ahead and self-deport. We've got a country to rebuild together. Thank you. Thanks so much.